And now I'd like to welcome to the program Ms. Kira Rudyk, who's a Ukrainian MP. Hello, and nice to see you again. Thank you for joining us today on TVP World.
Hello, Don. Hello, Marie. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for keeping focus on Ukraine. It is critical for us.
Yes, it's critical for all of us. I think we can definitely agree on that. Well, it's nice to have you this week on the heels of what we saw come out of the United States last week. I know that everyone was crossing their fingers, and I know that probably many people in Ukraine are at least have higher hopes. Morale hopefully is in a better place. But really, I want to ask if you think that the assistance and the weapons, are they going to make it in time to make a significant difference? And what do we know on this front so far?
So what we have heard is the possibility that the first weapon delivery will arrive at the beginning of May. But there is no actual confirmation, and we can only hope that our partners understand the urgency of the matter. This is why we are working on improving the logistic chains and making sure that the time between the decision making and the time when Ukrainian soldier has the weapon in his or her hands is as short as possible. And it will not be over-exaggeration to tell that most of Ukrainians were watching what was happening in Congress last week, because we knew how critical, how tremendous this decision would have been for us. And today we are expecting that Senate will support the Congress decision and move forward on both items. First of all, the 61 billion aid for Ukraine, but also less talked, but also most a very important point, a confiscation of the Russian assets and using them for the sake of Ukraine. This is something that my team and I have been working on for a long time, and we are so happy to see it happening. And not too many people believed at the very beginning that it is possible, but right now, this decision by the Congress will not only make sure that the 10 billion of Russian money will be sent over to Ukraine, but also will send a strong signal to our European partners and to G7 partners that it's not scary, it is legal, and it's politically good to use Russian money for the sake of Ukraine.
Right, and I'm really happy that you mentioned that. I know you've been working very hard on this, and I know that the amount of money that's been, technically seized in the United States in that repo provision and will be allocated to Ukraine, absolutely groundbreaking precedents. Now, what are the challenges in Europe to get some of the European partners to follow up and do the same? Do the same thing as they have done in the United States?
The main challenge in Europe is that there are still many private companies that are working in Russia. Though they have made many claims that they are exiting or exited or plan to exit, the fact is that they're still working with Russia, and there are many people who are afraid that if Russian assets will be seized in Europe, then a similar thing could happen to the European assets or European companies in Russia. Our answer to that is very clear. After 2 years of the full-scale invasion and sanctions, you are still working in Russia, it cannot be a stopper for doing the right thing and using the Russian money to support Ukraine, because otherwise it will be taxpayers, people just like you and me, who are paying taxes, and their money will be used to support Ukraine. And I think it's so much more fair and logical to use Russian money instead of the money of the people who are supporting us. This is why we encourage people to put pressure on their governments, on their politicians, to do the right thing and ignore all the ideas that there could be threats from Russia. We have heard those threats many times, and the fact is we are the ones who are obviously the subject of this threat, and we say go ahead and do the right thing, because we need the support, we need those money, and we need everything that we can buy with those money. The weapons, the ammunition, the critical infrastructure protection and defense.
I wanted to change the angle of our conversation a little bit and hear your comments on this, that actually this aid, this U.S. military aid that has now been essentially confirmed for Ukraine comes as a surprise to the Kremlin, and that really the hope was that it wouldn't come through to Ukraine, and that essentially this would lead to chaos in Ukraine, that Zelensky would essentially be ousted and it would be necessary to bring someone else into power because of this lack of aid for Ukraine. What are your thoughts on that? Is that true?
This aid, the truth is that this aid is 7 months late. And we have been expecting it and pushing it and heard promises for 7 months. And I can tell you there is a absolutely huge difference between when you are living in a peaceful country and you can play with the time back and forth, and when you are sitting in a bomb shelter or fighting at the front. Times go differently. And I don't think that 7 months that were spent was something that we could have afforded. And that's absolutely true. However, we were persuading our partners, saying that, look, the delay is making happy at least one person in this world. And this person is Vladimir Putin. So please help us not to make him happy and play against him and not for him. As of Ukraine, you know, the recent polls are still very positive and Ukrainian society is still very much united. Of course, more than 2 years of the full-scale invasion is exhausting. It is exhausting on everyone. But we know for sure that during the wartime, there can be no elections. So we are working with what we have right now. And we have President and Chief in Command, President Zelensky. We have our parliament. We have our army. And if there is one thing that we learned very well during this time is that you have to work together to have any chance of winning. And this is what we are doing.
I'd also like to switch subjects just very briefly. The news out today is about the mobilization bill and the Foreign Ministry of Ukraine essentially suspending consular services for its citizens abroad that are of military age and eligible for mobilization. What are your thoughts on this? I think many of us could see this coming for quite some time right now. Is this a good thing for Ukraine to do, to get people that are essentially dodging mobilization by staying abroad?
So first of all, the mobilization law is still didn't start. It didn't come into action. Mm-hmm. So I was as surprised as you when I have seen this decision by Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I think it was not very well thought through. And right now it's limiting all the people who left without the permission, people who had all the abilities to leave. And I do not think it will push anyone to go back to Ukraine. It will push more people to give up on their Ukrainian citizenship. So we hope that this decision will be taken into consideration once again and will go according to the bill that we voted on, and will go in time with it. Because right now it seems completely in discontent with what was written in the mobilization bill. And of course, we cannot be judging all the people or cannot be acting towards all the people the same way, no matter the way that they have left the country, etc. So we were calling today for the Minister of Foreign Affairs to rethink this idea and make sure that he's acting according to the law.
If I may follow up, just because I'd like to address this, because there's about 1 million Ukrainians that are living here in Poland, not all of them obviously eligible for this. But I'd also like to clarify one more thing about the mobilization bill, because I've heard this time and time again. Not everybody obviously wants to be mobilized. Not everybody wants to go and fight in the front lines. But can you dispel some of those rumors that anybody that would be mobilized would be sent to the front lines?
Well, it is absolutely not true. And the army is not all the people who are fighting at the front, right? The army consists of engineers, of drivers, of drone operators, and of fighters, of medics, of many others. So this is why the mobilization bill was so important, because we were giving people an ability to choose their profession once they apply directly, and that they will be able to choose where they would want to serve, and will give them enough of the time to train. Oh, I'm sorry, my cat is coming all the time to the here. Oh, say hi. Sorry. So back to the mobilization bill, the importance was to create a clear set of rules that will explain to everyone who will be mobilized and when, and what should you do to be able to choose your own profession in the army. And of course, our army requires all the professions: the air defense system operators, snipers, fighters, tank operators, many different ones. So anyone who will be mobilized will be trained for their own profession. And what we think right now is that this process has significantly improved since the beginning of the full-scale invasion, and shouldn't look so scary to the people.
Okay, we're going to have to park our conversation there. Kira Rudyk, thank you very much for joining us on TVP World, as ever.
Thank you, and glory to Ukraine.